What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Between the Lines Sports Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Blair, and this is our other host, Patrick. This is our mini podcast strictly on Tennessee athletics. We're currently in football season right now, so that is what we are talking about. So we're going to go over last week's game against UTSA and talk a little bit about this upcoming week's game against South Carolina. All right, started off about last week. What are your thoughts?
It was, overall a good game. They started how we wanted them to, really fast. Scored on the first play, obviously, with Joe keeping the long run, and then 3 and out, and went right down the field again, super fast. And it looked like it was going to be about 75-0 or something. And we blocked a punt, and then made a kind of dumb mistake with a freshman, who's going to be a good player, but he just kind of made a mental mistake there, trying to dive on the ball past the line of scrimmage, and kind of slowed the game down a little bit. But still, the offense was amazing in the first half. Like what we had been used to seeing last year and the year before that. 31-0 at the half. Really can't complain about that. But then that lull there at the end of the second quarter and pretty much the whole third quarter, when we just kind of came out flat in the second half on defense, and Joe took that hit because our offensive line's still trying to figure stuff out. I think that really affected him, because if you look at his stats, he started 14-16 and was lighting it up. And then after that sack, he was like, I think maybe one for his next 10 or one for his next 9, something like that. And just was a little off, afraid to step into his throws maybe, and it threw him off. And then with our defense, we were trying to play some backups to start the second half. And we're missing too many tackles and not getting off the field on third down. And kind of had to reinsert the starters on defense there, the end of the third quarter and start of the fourth. But once we did that, it never really got out of in question, but it just kind of, you want to see us finish it a little bit stronger, maybe get our backups a chance to play on offense, which we didn't get to do till the end of the game. But overall, strong performance, because as we know, UTSA coming into the year, they were a top 25 team, and although they were down there, starting quarterback probably would have made a little bit of a difference, but still a pretty solid team overall. So it was good to see them take care of business.
Yeah, like you said, that first half was really encouraging to see. And, based off that, I thought we were going to see at least Nico play the entire fourth quarter, pending us putting up some more points in the third. But like you said, we had some things that slowed us down. But, like you said, with Joe and his knee, if you were watching the game, you could definitely tell just the difference in his play. The stats speak for themselves. But, he no even thought to move out of the pocket really, or do anything to test it. So I was a little worried, going after the game about his availability for this upcoming week and about him being healthy and everything. But it sounds like everything's all good. And it was just kind of a little tweak, and it was probably just a little sore that day. I didn't want to do too much to try to make it worse. But yeah, like you said, it wasn't a huge test for us. But they're not a terrible team by any means, obviously down their starting quarterback, but it was encouraging to see. It was good to see Dylan Sampson back in the mix. He didn't really do too much with Florida. I don't know. I feel like there was more to the story than him just getting he only had one touch against Florida, right?
No, he didn't even get in the game at all.
Yeah, he only had I don't know. I feel like there's.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they're kind of loyal to those older guys. I think Jalen Wright's still the best back, and then Jabari has been there for a long time. So I feel like they're, I don't know, loyal to those guys, which they're great players too. And I don't know. I don't think there was really. I personally, I don't feel like there was anything to it. Maybe they just, like I said, we didn't have that many snaps, and then when we were trying to come back against Florida, they might have been having the bigger backs in the game just for pass protection and to leak out the backfield. Not that Sampson isn't definitely a dynamic playmaker. Maybe those are just the guys they trust a little bit more in those situations or something like that. But there's no doubt Sampson. He needs to get his touches, because the guy's really electric. He is an Alvin Kamara, but he reminds you of him wearing that number 6.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so truly, I'd be okay with seeing all of them play. With the majority of it going to Wright, maybe I don't know, like a 60-20-20 or something like that would be, feasible. But, obviously we don't get paid the big bucks to make those calls. So, we'll see what it looks like this coming Saturday against South Carolina.
I mean, I think that's what they're trying to do. I think that's what they definitely had planned to do. But then with these limited possessions, maybe a couple possessions less a game because of the clock and stuff like that, especially against Florida and Austin Peay, where the game's really short. And this game wasn't because UTSA kind of played like we thought they would. They played pretty fast. But against those other opponents, I mean, a couple possessions cut short means, I mean, some guys' snaps get cut, and especially against Florida and Austin Peay when Jalen was running so well. I mean, it's hard to get those other guys on the field when he's the bruiser. So I don't know. We'll see how they move it around going
Yeah.
forward, but I don't really think it's anything to worry about at this point.
No. All right, looking ahead to this weekend against South Carolina. They're going dark mode, wearing the black uniforms, kind of a revenge game. We win that game last year. We're pretty much dead set in the playoffs. But Hendon got hurt. It was just kind of a really, I don't know, not like a damper on the whole year, but that game with Hendon getting hurt, losing, and losing your chance pretty much at the college playoffs unless some craziness happened. It kind of sucked. I mean, not kind of. It sucked, obviously, for all of us. But I definitely. I know they always say don't play with revenge or whatever, but I want to beat them bad. So, what do you got on it?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at this series, I mean, Tennessee and South Carolina. I mean, South Carolina comes in the league in '92 and they beat UT in '92, and then they don't beat them again until 2005. So it's kind of been a series that Tennessee dominated, and since then it's kind of been kind of I don't know, not fluky, just a weird. There's been so many one possession games like '05 one possession game, '06 one possession game, '07 overtime game, 2012 one possession, 13 one possession, 14. So it's just been like a crazy like field goal in the last play. I mean, just crazy stuff in this series. And then last year, I mean, you just kind of, I don't know, kind of figured something crazy was going to happen. Didn't think it was going to happen like that. But the way that it went down and the way that Hendon obviously got hurt, and then the way watching when we were down pretty big in the fourth quarter, Beamer trying to get into the DBs on our team's head and talking trash to them. Now, our guys shouldn't have been getting into it with them, but Beamer still just acting like a child. I mean, that's as long as he coaches there, that's what's going to be ingrained in my mind about him. So this is one definitely. I know that most of the fan base and especially me's had circled since that night, and hopefully the team feels the same way. Obviously, they're not going to try and give any bulletin board material or talk or stuff in the press. But I think that this is a game that they've been looking forward to for a while, and I know the fan base has too, just because with everything that was on the line and just how it went down. Because really, I mean, it was inexplicable last year. Like our defense was definitely not like a national championship defense, but for the most part, it was pretty good last year. I mean, there's only I think maybe like 3 games where the opponent scored over 30 points on us, and South Carolina put up 63. So a combination of things went into
Yeah.
that, but it's pretty inexplicable what went down. So this is definitely one that I think everybody involved with Tennessee will be ready for. And like you said, wearing those dark mode uniforms to get a little extra juice and the night game, and I think everybody will be ready for it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like when we first brought out those black uniforms, what year was that? Was that 14,
No, I
15
think we wore
against
them
South
in '09
Carolina
against
when we
South
beat them
Carolina.
like 41?
No, we wore them in
Oh,
'09, and
nine,
then we
yeah.
wore them
But I
in
remember we
21.
beat them bad.
Yeah, 2021 against South Carolina with
Yeah,
Heupel's first year.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. You're right. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want them to kind of overthink it or get so stressed about like having to win the game. I mean, it's not the end of the world if they don't, but we definitely want to see them. We want to see that YMCA coach get back in the swimming pool. Obviously, get back to what he's good at. Because can't stand him in college football. He's not good for the game. Just kind of an embarrassment to college football as a whole and the conference. Just I don't know. I'm not real big on him by any means or his behavioral stuff. So yeah, I mean I don't know. I feel good about it though. Their run game's not real good. I think if we can get some pressure on Rattler and kind of keep him in the pocket, I think we'll be in good shape. And then if we can run the ball, I think we'll be in real good shape. So I haven't heard. I don't know if you've heard for sure, but if we have Jalen Wright back and we have all three backs healthy and ready to go, we should be able to do some damage. And night game, black uniforms, crowd's going to be in it. So I think that's going to play a major key into it. Because I mean, last year when we played at South Carolina, we were highly ranked, highly favored. The crowd was in it. As soon as they got their momentum going, I mean, the crowd plays so much effect into college football. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a couple of things there. I will say, having been at the Florida, Alabama, and Kentucky game last year, I think that this environment's going to be even above that. I mean, the Alabama game was pretty crazy. The Kentucky game was pretty crazy, but the way we jumped on Kentucky so early, I mean, it was loud the whole night, but it wasn't insane. I just think that this one's going to be a different level. Everybody's going to be out for blood. Just like we talked about with the way the game went down. So that's definitely going to play a huge role. You talked about South Carolina not being able to run the ball well and not stopping the run. Same thing with their secondary. I mean, they've really struggled. I mean, this past week against Mississippi State, they gave up 487 yards passing. I mean, it's not often when you give up 487 yards passing and win the game. So um, I think this is definitely a vulnerable defense. But the problem is that their offense has really been clicking because we talked about a few weeks ago. We talked about that North Carolina game where they gave up 9 sacks. But the problem is that
Yeah,
Rattler has just been overcoming that because he's really played
yeah,
well. The other night he was like 18 of 20 for 300 something yards and like 3 touchdowns. He had more touchdowns than incompletions, and is just playing really well. But I do think their offensive line could definitely be a liability in this game because I mean, the places where they struggled, that North Carolina game where it was kind of 50-50, they give up the 9 sacks. And then at Georgia, they had a lot of pre-snap penalties too. So one interesting thing too, if you look at North Carolina's season stats, so they played 3 games since they played South Carolina. They played, I can't remember who they played. They played App State, they played Minnesota, and then I can't remember who they played this week. They have 12 sacks on the year, and they got 9 against South Carolina. So that tells me a little bit about South Carolina's offensive line.
yeah.
So I think that's definitely a place where Tennessee can expose them. They're going to have to be aggressive. They just can't sit back and kind of play the way that we did early in the first half against Florida. So I have some doubts about us being able to cover them if that's how we try to choose to do it. So I think we need to heat him up the whole game and realize that he's going to hit some plays, and we're
Mhm.
just going to have to try and maybe knock the ball loose, make him throw it to us, have him running for his life all night. And I think that we can do that because we have some good players in the interior, and our obviously Beasley is probably the best player on our team. So I think that that's something you need to look for Saturday is if we can get to Rattler, and I think if we're able to do that, I really like our chances. If not, probably gonna have to outscore them, and that's gonna be a tough thing to try to do with the receivers they have on the outside.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see us early in the game. I'd kind of like to see us play, kind of like a press coverage, man to man, and bring some pressure. And if they beat it, fine. Then we can reset, try something else. But I think that's the key is really, trying to get him uncomfortable. He's looked real comfortable this year, even against North Carolina. When he wasn't getting sacked, I felt like he was real comfortable. He threw it all over the place. I think he had a really good stat line that game. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he threw over 300 yards and didn't really. I think he was like 31 of 39, something crazy like that. Um, so yeah, I want to make him uncomfortable, bring some pressure early. Like you said, I'm not a huge fan of sitting back and kind of letting teams throw those little quick passes and dealing with it until they get down the field. The Steelers do that all the time. I can't stand it, and we saw Tennessee do it against Florida, and it worked in Florida's favor heavily. So yeah, I'd like to see that the pressure. I think it's key. As far as the environment, you said about it being better than it was with Alabama and Kentucky and some other games last year. Are you talking like during the game and pregame type environment, or are you talking about the after effect of a win?
I think during the game and like leading up to it, because like the Florida game it was kind of tense because everybody was like expecting us to win. And it was a good environment. I mean, it was a Checker Neyland or whatever, but just kind of, I don't know, wasn't that intense. The Alabama game was more like it was a good environment, but it was more hopeful, because it had been so long since we beat them. Like, it was definitely loud, it was crazy, and after this game scene on the field and stuff, it was insane. And then the Kentucky game was a night game and stuff, but it
Yeah.
was Kentucky. This is a game where we lost to South Carolina the year before. Everything that was on the line, Beamer running his mouth. Everybody is, kind of on the fence on Joe. At least the casual fans or the most Tennessee fans, rednecks are on the fence about Joe. So there's just a lot of stuff that this game is going to be huge for the rest of the season, and I think the fan base and everybody knows that. I mean, if we win this game, we go into that off week. 4-1 with a big game against A&M coming up, but with 2 weeks to prepare and everything's positive. And if we lose this game, I mean, nobody is in their right mind saying anything about our coaching staff with what they did for us last year in that 11-2 season. But it's just going to be ramped up on it's
No.
time for Nico. It's time for Nico. It's time for Nico. It's time for Nico. It's just going to be 2 weeks of that. So this is just a big game. And I really hope that we're able to come through. I hope that Cooper is able to go because I think that'll do a lot for our team, and I think it'll do a lot for Joe because, I mean, as great as Ollie's played, it's not his natural position. And Cooper getting back in there with the experience and having run this offense for 2 years, and he's just a better athlete than Ollie is. Ollie's filled in great and done his best, but Cooper's a better
Yeah.
player. So I think that it's going to – if he's able to go, I think that'll be a big boost, and I think that'll really help our chances to win if he's able to play. So, but to answer your question, I think during the game, I think especially if we could start the same exact way we did this last week against UTSA, like a big play to get up 7-0 or something like that, or some kind of play on defense to score, it's going to be crazy because this is it's different. It's none of those teams we played last year really cost us what this game cost us last year. So I think that's in the back of everybody's mind and just the revenge factor and everything
Yeah.
going into it. I just think it's going to be a crazy environment.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really do hope Cooper's able to play. But I don't know how confident I am that he is, just because we've been hearing since the Austin P game that it's looking like he might play, and then Austin P came and we're like, oh well, he's not going to play this week, but he should be good for Florida, and then didn't play for Florida, and then UTSA there wasn't really a big need for him to play anyway, so it was kind of taking a more cautious look at it, but I really do hope he plays. I mean, I think it'll make a big difference as far as Joe's confidence. He controls the line of scrimmage, makes all the play calls, blocking assignments, all that stuff. So we'll see.